Why don't you do it, Tim?
How am I counting us in? Are we doing like the
Yeah, that'd be
1,
fun.
2, 3?
Yeah, we'll be 10 rounds.
All right. So how do they do it? They do 4, 3.
You say it, and then you don't say 2 and 1, maybe.
And then
I don't know.
Wolfie goes, and sing.
Okay, ready? 5, 4. And we're live. No, we're not.
There.
No,
Hi, people.
we're live. We're not in a studio.
That's right.
Live from New York. No.
Nice cockroach.
Thank you. I just had stuff. No, wait. I just directed it. That's it.
Ron, that's Tina Tuna.
I just stuffed it.
Yeah.
It just got engorged.
That was from, I forget which movie. She said, nice beaver. Thanks.
Oh, well,
Can we
just T-shirts. There you go. I
Oh, look at that.
Bones Coffee Company.
Awesome.
Let me see.
Great coffee. What do you got, Tim?
Catastrophe skateboard.
Oh,
Nice.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Is there significance to the guy being cut in half, or is it just that a belly?
Oh my God,
It's actually a belly. There's like a
The belly.
thin line right there.
Oh, okay. That's
the
cool.
belly.
R2D2.
No, we
Doctor
just come up here.
Who!
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God, it's R2D2. I loved him in Star Trek.
So you're just trying to piss
That's
people off.
funny.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with crossover T-shirts.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Is this,
Uh-oh.
Well, it's a good thing it's not about you then.
That's true.
is this
That's
something?
not a crossover T-shirt. That's a funny thing.
What
Okay,
sort of
thank
fun-
you.
I wanted to talk a little bit. I wanted to acknowledge what's going on in the world right now. I mean, everybody knows that we're dealing with a lot of upheaval and a lot of protests. Black Lives Matter, the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and it's really ugly out there.
Yeah. I think
Well,
this
I was
Go.
saying that riots, the word riot is almost become generic to protesting too, which is really sad.
It's unfortunate that that's how it is. How it there's a lot of peaceful protests going on too.
Mhm.
That's, I think, important to mention, it's sort of like when they used to have the gay pride parade on TV, they show the most extreme versions of the people there to everybody in America, right? But that's not what it was all about either.
They don't want to be seen
most flamboyant.
in a
The stuff on the news that
empty
sells.
bathing suit.
Yeah. The stuff that sells is the stuff that's a little more controversial. And I think there's probably many, many more protests than there are rioting,
Oh yeah.
Or riots.
No. It's scary though. I've had a lot of friends with people that live above a Target in Emeryville that got just completely looted.
Yeah.
It's scary. There's a lot going on, and
I used to live right by there.
I have a hard time condemning a lot of it. I'll definitely condemn the people that are just out for themselves, don't necessarily believe one way or the other. They're just out there I'm going for mine. I'm grabbing this TV, or I'm grabbing this pair of shoes from this Foot Locker or whatever. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that people could possibly see looting as reparations?
I don't think that even thought out. I think just, hey, this is chaos. I'm going to grab me something.
I think some people, yes. It's, and I can't necessarily. I'll fault people if they're community stores, mom and pop businesses, and stuff like that, because they're people that are typically a part of the community, typically already struggling because of having to be shut down for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So just to have their places just demolished because of the location of it, I have a hard time supporting. But yeah, for a system the systemic racism that has been going on for over 100 years.
Well over 200 years.
Yeah.
150 since the Civil
We'll
War.
say 400. We'll say as long as the country's been alive. It's, systemic racism that's been there. And I can understand somebody says, you know what? I'm fed up with the bullshit. I'm going for what's mine. And if that looks like, looting the place, I can see that.
I've seen some discussions, and what they're saying is the people who are looting are like 0.00001% of the protesters. So, but you have a lot
Back to your point, Ron, that they show like just the skinny guys wearing the skimpy suits on the top of the pride floats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're getting a lot of attention, and I think you're right, Tim. I mean, talking about, okay, whatever anybody's opinion on what caused this, I mean, clearly it came to a head, and it was a long time coming. It's not just one person or one case of police brutality. It's literally like hundreds of years of sort of promises of equality that were not delivered on most basic levels, and with COVID now, in addition to that, you have a disproportionate amount of African American people who are getting sick, who are affected by this because of hundreds of years of sort of systemic.
David Bowie agrees with you.
Yeah, isolation and segregation, and they're fed up. They're saying, okay, not only are we dying at the hands of police, but we're dying because we're lack of access to health care, preventative care, child and maternity care. And I think that just as we rioted in Stonewall, when you've had enough, I guess, I don't know why that point happened at a particular time, but I can guess, all the police brutality, all the bullying, all the, our lack of rights and representations, we finally said, I'd rather take it to the streets because I'm not being heard. We weren't being heard as a group in any other way. And I don't think the African American community was being heard either, clearly, because I think this is their opportunity to get some attention. And I hope I already see a lot of good things coming out of it, insofar as groups starting to work together that maybe didn't work together before. Or
I get emails constantly. Every corporation, business they're not afraid anymore. Everybody's making a statement.
Yeah.
Well, what I wish would happen would be more celebrities would be willing to stick their neck out. I was rather shocked when Taylor Swift finally came forward last week, and she made a tweet about how President Trump, we're getting you out of office in November.
Yeah.
But by and large, most of the people, like mainstream celebrities, they're just like, they're not willing to touch it because, Michael Jordan, case in point. I mean, for years, he's never taken a political stance on things because those conservative dollars are fans of his too. And he doesn't want to jeopardize that, which I have a hard time with. But,
well,
I don't know, I guess it could.
I think it's kind of like racism in this country. If it's not something that's in our face every day, then people tend to think, well, maybe it'll get better or maybe it'll go away, And I think what this is showing is that it's not going away. It's not just being swept under the rug, and in fact, in many instances, getting worse.
Well, it's swept from under the rug to above the rug because of Trump. All from him.
Well,
making it okay for people to not tolerate.
And he's representing his fan base, who are people who, I mean, he's certainly not alone.
Still on the TV show. He's still on the TV show.
Look at the money trail, where he's getting his money from. That's who he's going to pander to.
You think in his brain that I bet he does. I bet he equates to ratings.
You said brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not.
He's only concerned about himself.
Brain.
Like,
Yeah,
I think he's like, any attention is good intention, even if it's bad attention. You know what I mean?
That's what you meant. I was going to ask.
It's more geared toward good, positive attention. He wants praise, adulation, and that sort of thing.
It seems to be
early on.
Generic. Attention's attention, positive or negative.
Well, early on when all the COVID stuff first started, when he was doing like his daily briefings, he was bragging about how high the ratings were on his it's just like, come on, dude. It's not why you're there.
He's not in touch with the reality.
I had to stop watching those. I was like, there's not enough good information, and I don't want to hear this guy pontificate and take over.
I can't.
Yeah, and the sycophant. What's plural for sycophant? Sycophant? Sycophants?
Sycophants, I'll go with that.
Sycophants for $100.
Sycophantism. It's palatable. You know what I mean?
Sycophantasy.
If you don't suck up and say thank you to him for doing anything, you're screwed.
He's like a drunk uncle,
right?
At a wedding.
He's a petulant baby, is what he is.
Everybody's trying to get $20 from him.
I just keep thinking, like, on the magazine cover, like, the worst person in the world ever. Okay, right below Hitler and Attila the Hun. You know what I mean? Like, and there's every single trait that he has is every single trait that I was taught not to have.
But here's the
go ahead.
It's like the worst of humanity, like rolled into one person.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like,
but the problem is, it's like it's creating this big division in our country, and like I was listening to this guy speak yesterday, and he was saying, his favorite thing about the Constitution is, we the people, and it's the people who make up this country and not him. And I think what's happening is that there's this great division now where people are, if you're not with me, you're against me. If you can't see my point of view, then, forget it. And I think that one thing that is important for us at this period is to find ways to listen better to each other, to communicate better. I'm
seeing a crack in that, though, Ron. I'm seeing a crack. I'm seeing a crack. I'm seeing a butt crack widening that people are starting to go, oh, it's us.
Well, that's good. That's hopeful. Yeah. I hope so.
I think I'm seeing a little bit of that.
Because I see a lot of, and myself included, sometimes you get so frustrated at what you see when you're talking to somebody. You say, oh, you support this person. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. But I also think sometimes in that lies an opportunity. How else are you going to build a bridge or kind of come to a common ground if you just aren't talking at all? And I think if I have some old friends from high school, for example. It's like we don't necessarily see eye to eye. We never have since we were younger. Somehow we're still friends. But through that friendship, through that long friendship, maybe 20, 30 years, like I can see a change, in his understanding of sort of my lifestyle and mine of his.
Is that recent?
Yeah.
Is that recent? Or just over time?
No, this is over time, and in there lies an opportunity for changing.
Why isn't he naked? That would be
there's somebody in the closet. It's Heidi in closet.
Hi, Brock. We're recording.
It's like, ooh, shiny. Everybody's
introduce them.
Yeah, introduce them.
Nah, he's shy. He's a shy horse.
Oh, okay. With Ron, a little bit ago, you had mentioned you had made reference to Stonewall and the start of Gay Pride, and June is historically Gay Pride Month.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling about it. I mean, I've got my own ideas, but I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Wolfie?
It's okay. Yeah, go
Or Vito?
Hmm?
Why don't you go, Wolf?
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Just how are you feeling around like gay pride right now, and having June being Pride Month, and just with all this other crap going on in the world right now.
With everything else that's going on, with the world getting turned upside down, almost literally, I haven't really had a chance to think about it that much. I know that Pride celebrations have been canceled all over the place, along with many other events. That's going to make it difficult to celebrate Pride, but maybe everyone just comes up with their own way of celebrating it. Like, host a party with your roommates or your friends or family, and just do it like that, or hold an online Zoom party, like the Bare Element Pride Party right now. Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
You could do it like that.
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need more followers and stuff.
Follow us.
We need a bigger audience, and then we'll do stuff like that. We're still building our audience back up again.
We'll get there. But that's
Tim,
go ahead. What about you, Vito?
Well, yeah, you actually said, how do you feel?
How do I feel?
No, not intellectually, but how do you feel? And how do I feel about not being able to go to a Pride event?
I have to say I don't really feel that
I'm
much.
okay with taking a year off. And I think that will make a lot of people that haven't participated in Pride in a while maybe participate next year.
That's true.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
For like,
go ahead.
LA Pride would have been today, and they had canceled it, but now I guess they've announced that they're going to do a Black Lives Matter march wrapped in with Pride next week, is what I've heard. So I don't know too many details other than that, but I'm glad that they're doing something.
Well, I think that's also an important discussion point on how Black Lives Matter intersects with gay pride and especially Black trans women. They're sort of like the invisible segment of our society, where people just watch as the numbers of Black trans people being killed, and it just seems like, okay, some people see them as less than human, and it like it's okay because they're so different, they're not one of us. And I think that I'm glad to see this intersection of the two groups, because I know that last year, maybe the year before, people were talking about it. There was some conflicting attitudes as to
what?
Black lives, integrating that into gay pride events, Black Lives Matters. And some people were saying, well, that's not our thing, and so on and so forth. And this was probably a couple years ago. And now I'm glad to see it integrated. I think it should be. And because ultimately, isn't that what the gay pride movement, the Black...
I can relate to this, Ron, because I was in a car in San Diego, and these guys drove by. It was two white guys and a Black guy in the car, young guys, and I think they started calling me fag or something. And I just looked into the eyes of the Black guy and went, how could you possibly stand by this? Because of the systematic oppression, I see a relationship with the two, and a lot of Black people don't see that.
Well, there's a lot of internalized homophobia within the Black community and racism against gay people as well. And we hear it in rap songs, and we see it, in Black trans people who are murdered and so on. And I think that is sort of the point in keeping people segregated, is to
minimize their power.
Well, exactly. They sort of bamboozle you into thinking that you're less than, you're different, you don't belong, you're not as good, you're defective, right? And then when you start believing that, several things happen, I think, within the gay community. What we've seen, and what you've alluded to with the book about the
Velvet Rage.
Yeah, is how we then turn that into sort of our own internalized homophobia, right? And that same principle, I think, happens within the Black community, within the women's movement, within every single movement. There are similarities, but one of the sort of common factors is trying to make people believe that they're less than, that they don't deserve to be here as much as somebody else. And
there's the whole Trumpies. They want everybody to be less than, except for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we need to stand up for, and that's the thing that we need to stop doing within our own communities and working with these other communities. Because if you look at everybody who's quote unquote a minority, all of a sudden we're actually a whole majority, except that there's a lot of infighting and lack of communication between groups.
Oh, wait. So you're saying that we forget because they're trying to suppress us. They keep us separate.
Yeah.
So we forget that we have power.
Yes.
When we're together.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like the whole thing that Trump's doing right now. Like all these people, all of his supporters that are part of the lower income and middle class and stuff like that, they have as much to lose by everything that's going on right now as we do as sort of middle class white America. So
they don't see it. Yeah, I don't think that they don't see it. They don't see erosion of rights for one group will eventually bleed into them. That's just dumb.
It is, right? It's really dumb.
They don't.
But beyond that, a lot of the so-called rallies that Trump does and things like that, those are staged.
Hell, man, that's like Hitler stuff.
They're staged
rallies.
There's a lot of propaganda going around. There's paid actors. There's paid people. It's like watching the prices.
Wait. I don't know if I buy into that, Ron.
Well, this is then just take it as my opinion. There's a lot of
people are being paid to do things. I think that's a right wing.
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors behind this emperor who has no clothes. Because most people, let me tell you, the majority of people, hardworking people, are too busy working, taking care of their families, taking care of their day-to-day. They're not up and going to riot and come up with guns and run around. They just aren't. That's not their nature. So a lot of this is he's sort of pumping himself up, saying, look at my base. And I guarantee you it's very hollow when it comes down to it. I guarantee you. Because most people fight, maybe they'll support him financially, but they're not going to, he's selling a lot of propaganda. He knows how to make a show. And
that's for sure.
We have to keep our eyes open. My opinion, but that's my opinion.
No, he definitely knows how to make a lot of people eat out of the palm of his hand. So.
Tim, I want to get your opinion on paid actors.
I wouldn't rule it out that there's paid actors. I think more likely is people being paid to instigate things online, whether it's through Twitter or different Facebook groups, and just getting people riled up.
Yeah, that's factual.
All this sort of what we're calling astroturfing. This sort of fake grassroots movement. I think that's probably a lot more prevalent than like somebody being paid to be out instigating stuff at a protest.
No, I mean ones that are staged for television. He's got a little rally and you see X amount of people behind him, right? To me, that's like The Price is Right. He's got these people, they come in and maybe they're supporters.
Oh, for Trump. Okay, at a Trump rally. Yeah,
that's
I can see that.
And then he takes that footage, sells it on, on whatever these sites are, on the media, things like that. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Look at who turned
I
out
think
for him
that he
tonight.
doesn't know that he's lying. I think that he's in
He knows he's
such
lying.
his bubble.
No, he knows.
Well, if he has something to say.
Hey,
Okay.
as a very good example of paid actors getting used and something that's put on for show was when Trump originally announced that he was running for president. The whole coming down the golden staircase in Trump Tower thing. A lot of those people were paid actors.
Thank you. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Trump is all about image. You have to remember that in any of the actions he takes. He is all about image.
That's right.
What are you? Let's shift gears a little bit here. What are you guys doing to cope with just everything going on in the world right now? What are you doing to try to maintain some sort of idea of normalcy or sanity?
Well, we talked about meditating before. I self-diagnosed myself with depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is not me. This is a couple of years ago now. This is not me. This is not who I got. Like the life sucked out of me by verbal abuse and things like that. So I went to the doctor. I'm like, do you want to give me something? You want to try a few things? So I'm on Wellbutrin.
Mm-hmm.
Because that didn't make me fat. What's the other one? The most common one?
Prozac usually.
Prozac has an effect, but it was the weirdest thing. Is I felt bloated and it made me bigger, like almost instantly. And then when you stop taking it, you're smaller again. It's the weirdest. I don't know if it's water. I don't know, but it's
Maybe it's menopause. We're all in that age group.
Yeah.
Like,
so I don't know if I ever want to go off it.
Well, tell me, Vito. I mean, no, that's important because I mean, I think a lot of people are fighting that. You know, it's one day bad news after the next. Whether it's watching our lack of leadership, whether it's watching somebody literally being choked on national television, and like you wonder, what has our world become? You know, what is it that we're seeing and taking in? And there's so many people in your position as well, and I fight that, where I just feel sometimes overwhelmed. I just want to sleep.
Sleep. So that's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I sleep a lot.
Yeah.
And then the gyms have been closed, so I haven't been.
Can't do physical so much. Yeah.
It's
so that's
been
a problem.
Really
that could be funneled into these protests and riots when people aren't working, right?
Well,
a lot of pent-up energy going on, and it just it was like a big perfect storm.
It really was. It was like somebody had a slingshot, and it was pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and then bam. Yeah.
Are you guys able to stay social at all?
Just with a few friends. Phone calls. But physically, no.
Yeah.
They just opened up the restaurants here. So I went out to dinner with a friend for his birthday.
How was that?
It was cool. It was at the Spaghetti Factory, old Spaghetti Factory. And then it was kind of nice because in the big Spaghetti Factory room with the train in it, it gets kind of loud in there. But since everybody was spread out,
oh yeah,
we could have a nice conversation. So that's what they're doing is they're opening like every other table,
Yeah. What about you, Wolfie?
How have I been coping? Again, I just moved into a new house, so there's lots of little projects around I can focus on, like hanging up pictures yesterday and going through some things. I've been able to do that, as well as work on some personal projects. That's basically how I've been coping.
A personal project.
Setting up networking for the place because
it could be a personal project.
We do. Nah, I don't like the equipment that the cable company put up. Let me see if I can do this on my own. That sort of thing.
Oh,
that's good. That's a very productive way to use your time. And are you getting to see or spend any time in Portland itself? Like I guess you've been cooped up too, huh? Are they opening things up there?
No, not in Multnomah County, which is the county where Portland is located. Some other counties in Oregon have opened up a little bit. For instance, in Washington County, next door, Brock's gym opened up, so he's been going to the gym for the past week. I'm hoping the same thing will happen in Multnomah County because I could really use a good workout.
Yeah.
One other thing that I've been doing is journaling some things down, just writing stuff down about current events just to see how I feel about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed for me, because after James passed last year and I started seeing a therapist, it wasn't that I necessarily felt like I needed a therapist in the moment. It was just sort of I know I'm going to need this sooner or later. And so I'm going to find one now before it's like I'm already like too far gone or whatever.
I got one of those too, by the way.
And it's turned into, she doesn't really give me like a lot of like stuff. Well, maybe you should try this over this next week or do this or do this. No, for me, what's working is just having to express everything that I've been going through for the previous week or two. You know, it forces me to process things in a way that I wouldn't normally even look at it, just trying to explain it to somebody else. And I found that's been really, really beneficial for me. I mean, from the experiences of losing James to the experiences of just like around COVID to the experiences around the Black Lives Matter and the protests and all that. So yeah, it's been.
Are you doing it virtually
really
with your therapist?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I guess if I went for an appointment, that's probably how we would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good.
What kind of? Okay.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Wrong.
I didn't interrupt. Okay.
Okay.
I did it too because everybody, a lot of people throughout the years, just you don't have a therapist. It was more like, what? You don't have a therapist?
I thought that comes with California.
I don't know how to take that.
Then I'm like, okay, let's see if I can pull this off. And it took like 8 months with Kaiser, but I got in and I have a therapist. But I haven't seen him in a while not because of this, just he declared that he would be on call for me now if I need him instead of a standing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they listen. That's their magic, is listening.
That's what this country needs too. A lot of listening magic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This past week would have been the week of AIDS life cycle. It would have ended yesterday, and the last night, the campsite is in Ventura, right on the beach, and they do a candlelight vigil every year. Thursday evening, I had the idea. It's like, I feel like I need to do something, like just to commemorate AIDS life cycle more than just like doing short bike rides around home. So Friday afternoon, I drove down to Ventura. I met James' sister and two nieces there, and we had a candlelight vigil on the beach, nice. And was actually really nice. And we went out to a restaurant for dinner and in the morning for brunch. And I do feel like I probably took a few risks that were somewhat unnecessary, but it was really amazing just having this sort of idea of normalcy for a few hours. It was really nice. I was really glad I went and did that. So candlelight vigil for James. People lost to lost to HIV/AIDS. People lost to police brutality. And some other people too have lost recently.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring all that down. Let's talk about coping more. Let's talk about some music.
Well, I was gonna.
You guys listen. We don't need to shift gears. But
I was gonna ask Wolfie what he was journaling because he had mentioned he wanted to.
Oh yeah.
The latest thing that I journaled is just a list of things that I have learned since Trump got elected.
Okay.
Mostly because the Trump election basically caused me to challenge my assumptions about America, as well as some other things. And some of the things I've come up with are there are far more racists in American society than I thought. I mean, even though Trump didn't win the popular vote, it was still a pretty high percentage of people voted for him, and that just shocked me. I mean, how?
Well, because it was a setup. They were demonizing Hillary for so long. It was like anybody but Hillary.
Yeah.
The attitude.
Plus, the power of celebrity in this country is sort of, I mean.
Really good point.
Gets a little off base.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It surprises me too. It's like I really didn't know that there were that many people that were racist, or maybe they were at the tolerating level, and then they got permission to.
I think a lot of it was also at the "I'm not racist" but crowd.
Yeah. And I also think if you're really not racist, if you're quote unquote woke or whatever, you're probably not hanging around with a lot of racist people either. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it too. Part of it's there's a lot more than we know. Part of it is maybe whatever particular group you're in, you don't see it because you don't tolerate it. I don't know, but clearly a lot more than we realize.
Well, it's sort of a rude awakening, just like with all of us. I mean, Ron and I, we've all lived in the Bay Area and California for a substantial amount of time. Portland's still pretty liberal, where you are down in Orange County right now. Well, Orange County isn't all that liberal.
It flipped blue. My mother couldn't believe that it flipped blue. I'm like,
but, we live in a bubble. We do. And I get reminded of it anytime I travel, like through Texas and stuff like that. Just like it's a culture shock for sure.
I'm worried about that because I'm thinking about moving, and it's like, I think there's going to be a culture shock. Am I going to see the red hats everywhere?
And it's
it is Utah.
I grew up in Ohio, which was typically very blue. And I go back home and I don't recognize it. There's Trump signs everywhere. Now, granted, a lot of the young people have moved other places, so it's.
Where wrong again?
Northeast Ohio in general, the state.
Ohio in general, okay.
And of course, we still have pockets, but the whole country's sort of changing, too. I mean, like, it reminds me, like, in the area of like when they. Try to desegregate the country, so in the South you had slaves that were released, but they really didn't have access to voting or education, and then so a lot of people went up north, and then they got an education, and then they shifted and they went from north to the South. So I see sort of the demographics in our country are also continuing to shift from north to south, east to west. It's hard to figure out where
we're self-sorting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. When my new neighbors find out that it's a house full of homos, what's that going to do, to the neighborhood?
Hopefully it'll be a party. House full of homos.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey, have you seen my ladybugs?
Oh, man.
Oh, you went there.
What, Wolfie? What else have you journaled?
Let's see.
What's the second one?
A large percentage of fundamentalist conservative Christians worship and reward narcissism and antisocial behavior. I can't respect that. That's because they think.
You mean because they're okay with Trump?
Yeah, because they consider him like a morally sound citizen or something like that, and it's like he's like the worst of the worst.
How could they?
There's a disconnect here. I mean, a major disconnect.
You know why?
Okay.
Because he's white.
There's a lot of. Well, that can't be the only reason.
My aunt
it is. I think that's they let everything go.
I think it's because they want to believe he's the one who's going to save them.
Yeah. Well, I just real quick, like I remember my grandparents had a house in Arctic Valley, and it's still in the family. And so when I go down there and the conversations you hear at the pizza parlors or things like that, it's like everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid, it's, oh, they're afraid and they're being taken over and this and that. And I think it's very strange to hear, like, where are they getting this information, and why do they all seem to agree that it's something? And so whatever the propaganda machine they're running is effective. You have to say that. But how do we get to the point where we can bridge that, or we can convince people otherwise? Because they think that they're living on fear.
It's Fox News.
Yeah,
it's totally Fox
Rush Limbaugh.
I mentioned to my mom Jesse Jackson, and I associate Jesse Jackson with, righteous and getting rights and, doing the Lord's good work, right? My mom, completely the opposite, saying he's a sewer, he likes to sue people, and he thinks he's evil. Like, where the hell are you getting this from?
Fox News.
Fox News.
Yeah, he's a sewer. That's
one who's
somebody.
What?
Yes, litigious. Well, you said he's a sewer. I thought you meant like plumbing sewer.
He's
litigious. No, he's litigious.
Yes, litigious.
That's what she associates him with, is being litigious.
And that's what a lot of the movement has been for a long time. And they would send people to, for example, Southern restaurants and wait to be kicked out, during Prohibition, and then sue them. Like that is part of the plan, and how they gained a lot of, rights. Because what happens is, since a lot of these laws were formed for freedom and emancipation from slavery, as they subtly and slowly introduce other ways to.
I don't know, Ron. Are you sure this was done on purpose, or is this just normal and everyday courses getting kicked out of restaurants, and then they sue?
No.
It's why would it set up?
Yeah, no. It's well documented. Yeah, and other groups have used this in order to sort of that playbook in order to. But I'm backing up, saying the reason why this was necessary, and the reason why they use this as a tactic, is because they say, okay, you're equal. We have the 14th Amendment, that says you're equal, and then they're saying, no, you're equal but separate. You can still go to a restaurant just like we can, but you can't go to our.
I'm familiar with separate but equal. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the issue that has sort of slowly, that started in the South and then started to seep back into the North. And again, for the last 100 years, prior to the 60s civil rights movement, that was all coming to a head. And then you had the 60s. And then finally they have some leadership that is having a lot of effect and getting a lot of followers. And what do? They assassinate them both. So this is a long time coming, and 100 years is not if you think about it, 100 years seems like a long time. If somebody lives 80 years, that's one lifetime. That's not a long time. And so, again, this sort of undertone of separate but equal, well, yeah, you're equal, but you're not. And I think when it comes to Black Lives Matter, this is what I was saying earlier, like Black lives more than matter. Black lives are important to this country. Black people are beautiful, they're strong, they're talented, they're kind, there's so many adjectives we can use besides, or words, descriptives that sort of just they matter. And I feel the same way with the gay community. I had this friend from Holland, and he's like, yeah, we tolerate gay people in Holland. You can do whatever you people do, And I said to him, that's okay. That's a start. They'd rather be tolerated than, not tolerated. But, like, I don't feel like I need to be tolerated. It gets to a point where you also want acceptance and integration, and not just somebody giving you lip service either. And I think,
well, it's
going back what Wolfie said. there's a lot of people in this country who say, "Oh yeah, we're fine," but behind the scenes, clearly they're not. You know?
Right. Well, there's a whole thing, just that idea. There's when you call somebody racist, or when somebody, the idea in their mind is like, well, I don't hate black people. They just think like they're really disgusting, sort of, outwardly hating somebody who's black. And it's not even that. It's just the different treatment. It's the prejudice. It's so many different things beyond just oh, I don't have a problem with black people,
Right.
or I hate black people. It's yeah, and just a lot of people don't get that. It's the systemic stuff. It's the
I think we're all racist.
it's just how you treat people.
I was about to say that there's a lot of subconscious racism,
Yeah.
where you do something racist or you discriminate against somebody, and you don't even realize that the reason you did that was based on racist precepts.
That's absolutely true.
I was raised in the early 70s in a very conservative town in southern Virginia. And the area was very, very prejudiced. I mean, for instance, as a child, and keep in mind I was only like 7 years old, I thought that blacks lived in the city and whites lived outside the city. And fortunately, my parents were like, no, we don't want them growing up in this area. So we moved to Northern Virginia, and that's where that stereotype in my head got completely blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Was your town called Whiteyville?
Colonial Heights, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. The nickname of the place is Colonial Whites.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
yeah. I have to say it took a lot. Sorry, Vito, real quick. Leaving Ohio in the sort of isolated. Although we did have, we basically had very few diverse groups. We had blacks, whites, Italians, Croatians, or something, but not a lot. And it took me moving to the East Coast and then to South Florida and then to California. Like, I think you actually have to do the work to understand your own subconscious biases and effort into it. It just doesn't disappear because you want to think of yourself as
you have to be actively mindful.
I recognize it and go, oh, I am being racist right now, and have control over it and flip that switch from growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom says, I talked to my mom about it, and she says, oh yeah, my dad, he was from Italy, and they didn't like black people at all. So he pumped her full of stuff about black people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we should talk about music.
Yeah, we went off.
On a lighter note.
Well, let's save some for another time, Wulf.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have about 5 minutes before we get into Backscratches. So, and
wow.
we have about.
Wow.
Real quick, did we forget to mention that just Clay's not available this week?
Here,
yeah, if you haven't noticed.
Who's this Clay person you keep talking about?
Clay's the guy that normally does this stuff. We're keeping track of like our topics and time and stuff like that, and it's actually kind of difficult. So
it is. That's why I was really happy that he was doing it.
We missed him, and I purposely didn't talk about RuPaul because I'll save that for next week.
Oh, okay.
Next episode.
Yes. So Clay took a day off from recording.
So, Wolfie, what did you find out about music? You said
lately, what I've been listening to a lot of is a genre called synthwave. It's inspired by the music featured in like films and video games from the 80s. A lot of stuff that's been inspired by John Carpenter, Vangelis, and Tangerine Dream. How I came across it was I like to listen to a hoster of radio stations called DI.FM, and they had a synthwave channel, and I'm like, oh, hey, that sounds cool. And it just kind of went off from there. So now I'm buying albums off of Google, and I really enjoy listening to it.
Is it new music created in a genre, or is it music from that era?
I initially thought it was music from that era, but it's actually music that is based on, meant to evoke that genre.
Interesting.
You'll hear some of it in the Stranger Things soundtrack.
Oh,
Gosh, what else?
You said Stranger Things?
Yeah, Stranger Things. A lot of synthwave music was featured in the third season of Stranger Things.
Did Thomas Dolby invent it?
I don't know.
Thomas Dolby?
they blinded me with science.
That guy invented technology. He did.
He
Invented all of it, all the technology.
Yes, it's just him.
There was no technology before Thomas Dolby.
Related to music, okay? We're talking about music. He created some technology that's used in like every band now.
Interesting. well, but I also like the video game aspect because is it like an 8-bit sound, kind of like a Mario Brothers?
No, not so much that. That's more the chiptunes genre.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you get together some links for us and we can include them in the notes on YouTube?
Gladly, I can do that. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I've been doing SiriusXM Chill.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I listen to that one. Yeah.
To CNN anymore, and I couldn't, even though I love it, I couldn't. And then to get the crazies, I would go to the SiriusXM Fox News just to see what the crazies are up to. But I haven't even been listening to my EDM music. I've just been doing chill because it's just, it's crazy.
What about you, Tim?
Well, my musical tastes are all over the place, and including some heavier hardcore and metal but lately I can't, to Vito's point, I can't really listen to a lot of that because it gets me a little too agitated. I mean, I've got stuff behind me Rage Against the Machine and Refused, and they're both pretty heavy bands, but lately it's just been it's been a lot more middle of the road stuff. I've got some friends that I have some playlists that we contribute to, and it's just it's a lot of indie rock and folk rock and stuff from the 50s and 60s. It's all
doesn't get your heart racing. It's like I want to keep racing, not racing.
Right.
Do you have a Spotify list or something you?
Yeah, we do something on Spotify.
Can you put a link to that in the
yeah.
I can put a link. I can put a playlist together for that.
That'd be fun.
The one that I've been working on with a friend, it's a little more private.
Yeah, you don't share that one.
Instead of mixtape.
Yeah, we'll do the Bear Element mixtape. Actually, we should. We should do a Bear Element channel, and we can each do our own mix.
Bears in front of the fireplace, Saturday night Bear Element, and we can do different themes.
So we'll do some we'll get some Al Green going, some Barry White, some Marvin Gaye. It's gonna be on. It's on. It's on.
Do we have the rights to do that?
No, but it's a Spotify playlist. You're just sharing the playlist on Spotify. We're not putting it here on YouTube.
Okay, I don't usually use Spotify, so I'll have to check that out.
So.
I remember when I was younger, I really thought Public Enemy and I really thought Rage Against the Machine was going to do something, I just thought, okay, here they are. Yes, fuck you. We're not going to do it. You told us. And, here we are. And here we are, 30 years later? And
well, they were set to do a summer tour. They were reuniting.
Oh, nice.
And we're supposed to be doing new music this summer.
Oh, nice.
Were they going to play Coachella?
Maybe.
Yeah, but it would. Yeah, Zach De La Rocca was down for it. I mean, the other guys had already been playing music together with Chuck D from Public Enemy and Be Real from Cypress Hill under the name Prophets of Rage. So they've got an album and an EP out over the last few years, but Yeah, they announced sometime around the beginning of the year that Rage Against the Machine was going to do another tour.
Well, I'm really hoping that music has had some at least positive influence on our Generation X, or whatever the heck we are. And, and hopefully we can, incorporate that as we get older and as we, have more maybe influence in voting and things like that as a group. Maybe there will be some good that comes out of that, because there's certainly a lot of good music, right behind you. I mean, it's a lot of great stuff there, but I hope that it influenced, or it can continue to influence our society in a good way.
Yeah, definitely.
All rock. But now,
what's that?
It's hard. In high school, I was alt rock, Depeche Mode, Eurythmics, Thompson Twins.
What were you wearing?
Oh, I did the Untouchables and Madness. I had the skinny
You
top
have a mullet?
buttons, and you dance like this.
Do you have a mullet?
I didn't have a mullet. Oh, I had a step cut. Where it shaved up to here, but then you have hair come down here.
Oh, no.
Yes, I did have hair at one point. It's true.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think Vito's always been bald. We're about time to wrap on this. Do we want to get into some back scratches?
Sure.
Unless we got anything else that somebody throw out before we get into that?
No, I just hope we can not have all these intense conversations and start getting a little topical, fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cooking segment or something, just.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree with that. I mean, I think, for ourselves, this is an important outlet, I think, for all of us, and it's not really a good outlet if all we're doing is getting our blood pressures up.
Yeah. So. No, but that's my shout out again to you guys, and to I did this other 1 hour sort of social group, but it's really important, during this time where I do get a little socialization at the hospital, but it's business, and it's sort of somber tone there, but it's something. But I do really appreciate this, and I hope that more people during Pride Month will reach out to one another, and let's not forget about all we've done to get here. Let's not forget about our own pride, and regardless of what's going on, that this is our month and our opportunity to continue to have a presence and share what we're about. We didn't get a lot of time with talking about with the bear community, but to share what we're about and
wear rainbow speedos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to see Tim in a rainbow speedo.
Why?
Why not?
Why on earth would you want to see that?
One of those that kind of straps across this, the really, really bad one.
The banana hammock?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like the straps and goes down over your junk.
Yeah, Wolfie has a couple of those. Wolfie, what about your back scratch?
He's probably got a leather jock strap, I'm sure. I'm sorry, Go ahead, Wolfie.
I do.
Get out of my head.
Backscratches to the people in my D&D games group. We get together via Zoom, and that's been going pretty well. Backscratches to my family and my friends in Portland.
There you go.
Right on. So, Ron, was that your backscratches?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Vito?
I'm going to do something weird. I'm actually going to backscratch Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper. They're gay guys.
Care to elaborate?
On CNN that are anchors. And I think they're just great examples.
Oh, good.
And they're taking one for the team, getting all this negativity all the time. I don't know how they cope, but I just think they're the best. They're the best.
Didn't
So you got?
he have a baby too?
Anderson Cooper, yeah, and of course the conservatives slammed it. We're not gonna have a mom.
Please.
Really.
Yeah.
I want to have a little baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and now that they're moving to letting people discriminate against, gays adopting.
Oh, the Trump administration always has things.
Yeah.
These insidious things
Yeah, well,
to unravel any progressive thing that's ever been done. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see if that sticks or not. But yeah. Any more?
I want to have a baby.
Well, they poop.
Okay. Well, I want a British kid then, one that says "Mummy."
Mummy. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Is he calling you mummy?
Sometimes.
Father.
What is your back scratches, Tim?
Let's see. Backscratch all you guys. Backscratch to the uneventful drive down to Ventura and back. A big anti-backscratch to all the people in Pismo Beach, which of course I need to explain now.
That's
Pismo Beach.
There's
a place. Yeah, there's a place in Pismo Beach called Old West Cinnamon Roll that people stop at it's along the AIDS life cycle route. So tons of people stop there on it during AIDS life cycle. So I was going to stop through there because I drove through Pismo Beach on the way down to Ventura. I was going to stop there and get a bunch of cinnamon rolls and give to my friends here, part of AIDS life cycle, bring them back. And the town was crawling with people that were there on vacation. Sidewalks were packed. Nobody's wearing masks. I saw one, possibly two people wearing masks, but I pulled into town and saw that. I was like, nope, not even getting out of my car. And so I just went home, forwent the cinnamon rolls, but they do deliver. So, or they ship. So I'll be ordering some through that. So, but yeah, so back scratches to Old West cinnamon rolls when I finally get them.
Perfect.
And we'll go with that. All right, let's wrap it up.
Visit us at bearelement.com.